Hi friends, in this section I am going to show the demo of Spring caching using Hazelcast. So Spring caching has three annotations like catchable, cache evict, cache put. Catchable is for if the data is not there in the cache, it will try to hit the database or any service and try to get the data and store it in the cache. Next time if you are hitting the same request, it will not make the DB call, it will just get from the cache. Cache put is something, it always makes the DB call and it stores in the cache. And cache evict is something, if you want to remove data from the existing cache, we can call this cache evict. So to use Spring cache, first we have to enable the caching. So there is an annotation called enable caching. This is similar like if you are using in XML, it is cache colon annotation driven. Both are same. So it enables caching for this code. Enable caching. So I have created a sample Spring Starter project using web and MongoDB. So this is my REST class. I am creating one employee service calling employee by ID and employee by name. Similarly, this is service class. From service we are doing DAO call. As it is a MongoDB, I am using Mongo template. From the template I am doing the query to retrieve this particular record. And I have added my application.property file, the database name, because it is not the default one. So I am going to update that in my application.properties. And this is my model. So which has name, employee ID and salary address. So this one has, I am using Hazelcast caching. So I need to add the dependencies of Hazelcast. So we have three dependencies. One is Hazelcast member dependency, com.hazelcast. Artifact ID is Hazelcast. If you want to use client, we can use client dependency, that is Hazelcast-client. For Spring, it is Hazelcast-Spring is the artifact ID. So these are three dependencies of Hazelcast I have added. So I am going to use the default Hazelcast in the member. So I am going to create one configuration class. In that I am going to create my Hazelcast instance. So I am going to add one app config. This is a configuration class. So I am going to create a bin of Hazelcast instance. Hazelcast instance. Return Hazelcast dot new instance with the default config. So I need to add import for this bin. Now I'll just run this application and I'll show how it works. Run as Java application. So my Hazelcast member is started and application is also started in localhost 8080. So now I'll hit some endpoint and I'll show you. Localhost 8080 /employee/employee ID. So if I come here, it was making the DB call. If I hit one more time, again it will make the DB call. So if I check in logs, again it went to service, from service it went to DO. So every time, even though you are calling the same request, it was doing the DB operations are costlier operation. So here I can use my caching. So I'm going to update the code. So in employee by ID, I'm just adding @catchable. Catchable needs the cache name. So value is, I'm giving employee catch, and we need to give the key also. What is the key value? So in my case here I am using employee ID. This is the key which you are storing in the map. And we have something called, when you want to do the method invocation, this get employee by ID actual call when you want to do. So I can call, if the result is null, you can make this call. So that I am setting this uses the Spring expression language. So I am using hash result equal to null. So if you are not getting any results from DB, we are going to do the DB call. So I am going to update my DAO code also. So I am going to create one more method to retrieve all the records and store it in the DB. List employee, get employees. Need to add import for this. So I'm going to add SOP. List employees, the method name is. So I can use mongo template.findAll. So return template.findAll with the entity name, that is employee class. So it's going to get all the employee objects which is there in the DB. So I'm going to use this get employees method. I'm going to comment this. List employee emp list equal to DAO.getEmployees. Need to add the import statement. So first I need to in case this is the first time it went to the method invocation, I want to update in the cache. So I'm going to get the cache instance. I already created the bean for Hazelcast in the app configuration, so I can use this. So private it is auto void. I should be able to get the same instance, Hazelcast instance. So instance.getMap, and map name is employee cache. It's of type IMAP. Need to add imports and of type integer and employee. So now I'm going to put all the employee list in this cache. So I'm using Java 8 streams. After that I'm iterating using for each object. I'm going to put it in the map. So emp map dot put. We have some put if absent also there, whatever we want we can use. Put if absent will call if there is no element is present. So I'm using put key is employee ID and value is x. So I'm going to update my cache. If it is not there, whatever the data I am retrieving, I am updating, and then I am returning what is the actual object expected. So get emp id. So now let me restart my server and see how it works. So my application is started. So I'm going to hit in from the browser. So this is property field emp id cannot be null. So if there is a null field, it was failing, so I should add some filter. X tends to x dot get id not equal to null. So it will not IMAP will not take any null key. So we have to make sure we are not giving any null values into that map. So I'm going to restart my server. So application is started. Still we are getting some more exception. Let me check. So here the error says property or field emp id cannot be found on the object of type cache expression root object, may not be public or not valid, because I forgot to use hash here, so it was unable to find this property. So I need to use hash employee id. So now let's restart my server. Hope this time it should be able to run without any exceptions. My application is started. So let me go and hit the endpoint. So now I am able to retrieve the data. This is the first time, so it was hitting the DB and getting the data. If you see here, it was doing a service call and then DAO call. Let me try hitting one more time with some other employee ID which is there in the DB. So now I am able to retrieve the data. If you go and see the logs, this time it will not go inside the service call. It just goes to controller. From controller we are able to get the data. So before doing the actual service invocation, it was getting the data. If I try with the ID which is not present in the DB, something which is not there in the DB, again it will try to hit from the database because it is not there in the cache. So it will be doing DAO call, service call, everything. Because the data is not available, it returns empty. So here instead of key, I am using employee ID. If I want the combination, if I am passing two arguments, I can use that that is my map key. I can use the same combination here. Like if I am passing employee ID and name, while storing in the DB map, I can use employee name plus employee ID. So for this key, I have to use the same key what I have formed here. Like employee name plus hash employee MP name something. And if it is not possible with the past value or if you want to dynamically generate the employee that key, we can use key generator. There is something called key generator. So this is the interface. We can provide the implementation for this interface and we can use. That also works similar like this key. So now I am going to show how cache put works. So for this method I am going to use @cache put. Everything is same. I have to use the value. Same cache I am using, emp cache, and here I am using my key as name. So I have to use hash name because it follows Spring expression language. Even if I use unless also, it is no use because cache put will always hit the DB. It will always do the method call equal to null. And I am going to copy this code and I am going to use. I need to add import for this cache put. So here it is employee name instead of ID. And the type is string, not integer. So now I will restart my server. So my server is started. So I'll go and hit this endpoint. This endpoint is with the request param name. So I'm going to hit this employee colon name equal to Sunil. So we got the data. So it was doing the method call because it is the first time with the string data. If I hit one more time, same thing. Even though it is the same call, it was going and hitting the DB. So if you are using cache put, every time it will go and hit the DB. So now I will show how we'll use cache evict. If you want, for the simplicity purpose, I am using get mapping and I am returning string. Cache evict. I am giving delete cache. I am giving endpoint as evict. I am going to add one method in the service, delete cache. Inside service method, I'm just returning some value, cache deleted, and we have to use @cache evict annotation. So the value is same cache I'm using, emp cache, and whether we want to remove all the entries or not, we have to give. I want to remove all the entries. There is one more thing called before invocation. By default it is false. Before calling you want to remove the data, or after method call without any exceptions are thrown, you want to remove the data. By default it is false, so I'm just showing first default behavior. And if I print here the cache size, it will be giving the values. I'll just get the cache and print the size. But if I check in this method, okay, I'll just save and restart my server. So now I'm going to call this evict method to remove the data from the cache. So my endpoint is /evict. See, cache deleted we got. We have started the application, so cache is not having any data. That's why it was giving the inside service 0. Let me hit some other endpoint and store the data in cache. So now it will insert some data into the cache. Now I'll try the evict method. See, now we are able to see the inside service 4, but if you check outside this method, we will get the size as 0, because once this method is executed without any exception, it will be deleted. So if you want, before this method invocation itself it want to be started, we can change this attribute to true. Just change it to before invocation to true. Then before calling this method, whether it throws exception or not, the data will be removed from the cache. So let's restart the server. If I try now, this cache evict will not be able to test because no data in the cache. So first we need to insert some data in the cache and then we have to try. So now I got some data to cache. Now let me try evict. See, now we got 0 because before calling this method itself, the data will be removed from the cache. So when I get the size, I will be getting 0. So based on our purpose, we have to set these values before invocation or after the method invocation. And one more thing is, in the employee object, we need to implement the serializable object if you want to store it in the cache. Otherwise, we will be getting serialization exception. Unable to serialize the object. If I can just show you that exception, I'll just save and I'll restart my server. So it's started. Let's go and get data. See, we got the exception. If I go and check that exception, not suitable to serialize the model employee. So we have to implement the serializable if you want to store it in the cache, IMAP or anywhere. Thank you friends. Please subscribe to my channel.